Hi there, everyone. This is the first seminar. I'm going to get right into this. Make sure you answer the questions below as well to complete the portion of your assignment. Getting right into it. What kind of house are you building? Here's my agenda for today. We've got 5 things that we're going to try and get through. Sign-in doesn't make much sense online here, but next time when you attend live, there is 2 devices that you just bring your one card and you're able to swipe and check in, and that's how we take attendance. Before we do get started with welcome, I need to it's been described to me before. We need to say something. So it's been described to me before that sitting in these seminars can feel like detention, and I am the principal. And I love that analogy, and it's exactly how I felt when being mandated to do something. You are required to be in a place, you're told to sit there, and you really have no rules. If you miss it, you're being told that you will not finish the program. They are mandatory, so it's extra stressful, especially if you've missed it. So what I want is for us, when we are sitting there live and when you are going through this information, that you have a strategy to help you stay focused. And whenever we're dealing with students that are resistant or reluctant or feeling like they're in detention, you're not going to learn anything. You're going to have a terrible experience. And so one thing we ask you to do is imagine a switch, and this switch is controlling your free will, your choice of being here or not. And if it's off, then you have no free will. If it's on, you have it. And when the free will switch is on, when the free will switch is off, you are annoyed, frustrated, mad, free to do whatever you want. I can't control what you do. You could look at your laptop, you could be on your phone, you could have your earbuds in, you can do whatever it is that you want. You can pass that time however you want. And in my opinion, and I'm sure you would agree, that's a total waste of your time. A complete waste of your time. If you turn it on, then everything changes. If you turn it on, now you have access to me and the resources that I'm bringing and the information that we're bringing, and you're fully open to learning something new. Because we're here for you. These seminars are for you. And if you are open to that and not closed off, then there is a chance that you will learn something and you'll be able to improve your academic life. Your experience here is all about, our help is all about making it a better experience for you. So all of the information is geared towards that. So if you can switch on and choose to be here for you and be open to learning something new, I promise you will, and you'll have a much better experience. So is it going to be a waste of time, or is it going to be an opportunity for you to learn and grow? That's your choice. This is a warm climate. We have to make this safe. If I'm going to encourage you guys enough to take the risk to do all the learning amongst all the stress of a fresh start year, I want this to be a safe place. Interacting with me and the Fresh Start program is, we're a team. We respect you. We trust that you're here for all the right reasons and that you're wanting to make these changes. If you start seeing that you believe what we believe, we're going to get along great. You are going to be challenged a little bit that maybe you don't believe what we believe, but we're here to talk. We are wide open to talking about anything. Talking is the first place for us to start. So please reach out to us through email, use the calendar to book appointments, all that sort of stuff. We are wide open here. We are here to help you. Period. Introductions. Dr. Bell is the director of the Academic Success Center, and she helps with governance of the Fresh Start program, and she'll be delivering some of the winter seminars. That's me. I'll be delivering all the other seminars. Ashley is from Access Open Minds, and I'm going to read through her slides. She gave a little presentation. She'll come to the start of each of them, and I'll read through her slides that she has. And Tyree is going to be our Career Services support. He's going to deliver 2 of the seminars. He's going to deliver seminar number 2, and which is on career coaching and learned happenstance, the theory of career coaching that they use. And he's also going to do number 6 as well, which is all about resources on campus for improving setting yourself up for work while you're still studying. The Access Consultant is part of the Access Open Minds network, which is all on the second floor. They've got a beautiful office. It's really nicely laid out. They've got snacks. They're incredibly open. They're all got a social work background, and they're incredibly lovely people. But it's a free service for helping students to use all the supports on campus. What we understand is that in Fresh Start program there, you may be trying to do your academics but also access multiple resources. So when you're feeling overwhelmed by school, and then at the same time feeling overwhelmed about where do I start in accessing all these resources, that's what this middle person is for. This is what Ashley will do. She will help you to make a plan to systematically access each of the resources. Maybe you prioritize which ones need to be accessed first, and you'll be able to go through and work with her to access all of the resources and get all the answers step by step, so that can help some of that, take on some of that overwhelm from having to access multiple resources. So definitely reach out if you're experiencing that you're needing to access more than one, more than two resources during a semester. They put on here that there is a research component as well. And in that research component, you'll be helping the Access Open Minds Network understand how emerging adults access resources. This is huge as they're trying to improve that. So you will be not only receiving all of these major benefits, you'll also be helping to make sure the system works better in the future. Let's get through some administrative items. Dates and deadlines withdrawing. We've got the add drop deadline coming up. I'm sure all of you are well aware of it. You'll still be struggling to get into some of your classes. Hopefully that's going to get sorted this week. Again, you have full control of choosing classes up until September 16th. After that, it's considered a withdrawal. And now to get that withdrawal, there's two parts. And the one part is in Beardex, you just drop it. The second part is it needs to be approved by the Fresh Start program. So if you're considering after September 17th, if you're considering a withdrawal all the way up until November 29th, just email Fresh Start or jump into our calendar and just say, look, I want to talk about withdrawing from a class. Meet with us and we'll discuss it, and then we can, if you still think that it's the right thing to do, you can drop it. If not, then you'll keep it, and we'll come up with an alternative plan so that you can still do well in it. Fresh Start fee. We have the fee coming up. The deadline is September 30th. This $500 is separate from tuition, and it was separate from the application fee. There's the three components that you needed to pay. This is one of them. You can pay online. Visa, debit does not work. Only credit card will work online, or you can come in and see us in sub 1-80 to pay the full amount. We know that $500 is a lot, so they do offer a payment plan. The payment plan could be getting close to running out as the deadline's coming, but they may be able to allow you to make a couple of payments over the next couple of weeks, so that you get this payment done. If it's not done by September 30th, that's when you get suspended from the online course and you're not able to complete that, and then winter registration can also be halted as well. Your agreement with the Fresh Start program. There are a lot of requirements that you agreed to. I'm going to go over them briefly, but I just want to let you know you have a copy of all of the things that you agreed to. When you submitted the Google form during your intake session, whether that was online or in person, you were sent a copy of your results. So if you go into your email and just do a search for Fresh Start program agreement, you will get the copy of your results right there, and you'll have everything that you need to know. The goal of the Fresh Start program was to avoid a second RTW, just to gain that satisfactory academic standing, making you eligible to apply. So we really want to get that minimum GPA so that you're allowed to apply. For admissions, that's the faculty goal. Now, what are our requirements? In Fresh Start, the requirements were to finish the intake session. You're required to use the resources available to you and ask for help. There's the $500 fee, the online course, which we'll look at in a second, which you have to pass, the GPA requirement, the reduced course load, and seminar attendance, as well as submitting your application. We had very basic requirements that you needed to agree to. What are your requirements for admission, achieving this goal? There's the competitive GPA. We don't know what that is. It's worthwhile asking faculties, but it's going to be higher than the minimum. Application deadlines are important to know, and any nuances about your application. Talking with a faculty office support help desk would be really helpful in just clearing up anything that you don't understand from the university calendar, the program requirements that they describe for admission. They will give you all the information you need about these pieces so that you are knowing that this is what you need to do to complete Fresh Start and to avoid the second RTW, and this is what you need for admission. The GPA is most likely going to be higher. In the case for the Faculty of Arts students that were coming into Fresh Start this year, if you were in arts last year, you have a whole different agreement. Yours was 18 credits and a 2.0. You don't have to be competitive, so they actually match. Our GPA for the minimum is 2.0, and the GPA for admission is 2.0 as well. So it's a really good deal that they're really wanting to try and make it as easy as possible for you to stay with the faculty. Going towards asking for help, just that comment before I mentioned that there's a lot of services available, and if you're wanting to access more than one of these, it might be worthwhile talking to Ashley. But as I said, there are lots and lots and lots of services available. These are just the ones that the Academic Success Center, and this is the rest of the student services that are available for students. Some free, most free, some there is a fee to it. For example, ours all have small fees as well. One service that I want to highlight that is free to students for the first time this year is our sessions for accountability and study strategies. You're going to be learning and changing the way that you learn, so it's and a lot of students are really interested in accountability, keeping that momentum week to week. A lot of students have realized that last year maybe they weren't as consistent as they were before, and so it's helpful to have that accountability. And so these sessions are 50-minute sessions. They're weekly. I believe they're 10 or 11 weeks long. They are starting this week, so you might be looking at trying to get into this for winter semester, but I'll just give you a description now so that you can, you may not be able to get into it for fall. I believe the deadline's actually past this early morning Monday. But they are a study hall type of session, but there's also a little bit of instruction. There's 10 max in it, and there is an expected commitment for showing up. For example, if you miss a certain amount in a row, then that's the end of it. You're not allowed to continue, I believe. The cognitive strategies component, we taught you how you pass it. Passing this online course is 80% pass rate in the quiz. If you do that, then you get the full course amount. What's the purpose of taking it? Why did we include it in the Fresh Start program? We know that if you have academic struggles, that there's a high chance that you're not only all the other components that were impacting your ability to do well in school, there's a chance that you're using ineffective methods of studying. So this course is designed to teach you the skill of learning how to learn. As you go through each of the quizzes, you will take them, you get the 3 attempts. If you get 80%, then you can stop and you get the full 3 marks, and then that there will just add up. If you do your assignment, if you get 80%, then you get the full 4 marks, then that will add up. Attending the seminars, then you get your 1 mark. Adapting to in university this quiz, if you get 80%, then you get full 3 marks. If you get 75, then you have to use another attempt, so on and so on and so on. And what you want to do is you want to, out of 100, you want to accumulate 80 total course weight by passing quizzes and assignments. Why are we engaging? Other than being mandatory, there is a lot of benefit to you, and the main benefit is exactly what you guys outlined in the writing task during your intake session. Part A was asking you about a summary of the Fresh Start program. Part B of that writing task, if you can recall, were what are the benefits for earning an undergraduate degree? And 99.9% of you said career. Career is essential. And what we find right now is that, yes, you're learning specific content for your degree. It may be a future job, but there are 10 skills for the future that the World Economic Forum comes up, and this is what they're expecting to be for 2021. These are the most highly desirable skills that you want to be able to put on your LinkedIn profile that you can get people to vote on. Complex problem solving, We're going to be addressing a lot of these. What we find is that out of all 10 of these, the overarching one that links all of them is learning how to learn. And that's what the online course is going to do. Learning how to learn, you'll see shortly, is by far the most important skill that we're going to have, mainly because of rapid change and disruption to all jobs and industries. It's just going to happen so fast that we're going to have to be able to adapt really quickly. In the seminars, we're going to focus on emotional intelligence, judgment and decision making, and cognitive flexibility. These are really essential to managing the stress of all of this change. I think this here is maybe the best description of what you will become. This is what the Fresh Start program ideal is. And I think not only does it describe the worker of the future, this describes what a Fresh Start student is turning into. A flexible problem solver who can manage deadlines and adapt well to all change, no matter what. Despite being stressed, despite being overwhelmed, they're able to still do these things. Using resources, by figuring things out, solving the problems of day-to-day life, and while still meeting academic rigor that comes with earning a degree. We can see that the workplace, they go on in the report to say that the workplace will become a learning place. So a skill is going to be essential, and that's not just on you. If you have that skill already, that's going to set you apart. But companies are going to move towards this and encourage students. They're going to want their students to consistently and grow and improve. If we're going to deal with the rapid pace of change, lifelong learning is essential, as I mentioned before. So these are the reasons, these are some of the reasons that I want you to engage in these seminars. We have built them on this premise. We want lifelong learning to be developed by all students, to learn this skill, to master this skill, so that you can walk into any class. You don't have to ask for a GPA booster. You could take any class and you can learn to apply the skills that you've learned, apply the principles that you've learned, and you can learn it. It doesn't matter which one. It doesn't have to be a GPA booster. You could go into any class. Some classes are going to be more challenging, but you'll be able to go into any class and any situation and learn that skill. Learn that knowledge to be applied to a satisfactory and competent level quite quickly. That's what we want. And that's the attitude that I'd hope for you to have. And that's what we want to focus on. Mastery of the basics, so that you can learn anything in the future. But we have to do it in this context. So what are we going to be needing? We're going to see that this is the typical first year. You may be able to relate to this. This is the context of a first year. This is the trend line for a survey that was put out to first year students. After their first year, they'll ask, how would you rank your motivation through each of the months? And you can see there's just a large drop straight away from super high in September all the way down to finals in December. A small bump for a new semester, and then continually decreasing over time. And that's why I think, because university offers this environment of pressure. There is pressure to do well. We have pressure coming from exams, from an uncertain future. Am I in the right program? Deadlines, and outside as well. We have, who here that's watching this has a life outside of academics? Yes, of course you do. And there's going to be pressure that comes from that. So there's going to be a squeeze. This environment is squeezing you. And it's going to be how well we can deal with or interpret this pressure is going to be able to dictate the type of experience you can have and the resources that you may need to engage with. Here is a graph of what Fresh Start results look like. Every year it's the same trend line, goes from bottom left up to the top right. What we're looking at is the full GPA versus overall GPA at the end of Fresh Start. This line here, 2.0 GPA, everything to the left is below 2.0 in the full semester. Everything below this 2.0 line, the horizontal line, is an RTW. If you're on it, then you completed Fresh Start, but if you're below it, then you have an RTW. And that's a lot. It is a lot, and that can be a little bit scary. There's some students down here, this group of students down here, I would like for them to be honest with themselves and say, you know what, I got to sort it. This isn't because they can't learn here. This is because they can't earn a degree here or get good grades. There is something going on in their lives that is not being managed. Their life is unstable, and so this group of students I would like to be talking to before November 29th so we can talk about a full withdrawal. There should be no need to stay in there, withdraw fully, and come back in the following year and postpone fresh term. You would lose all of the fees, and that's a lot of money, I know. But if finishing a degree is what you're interested in doing, then it could be a great idea to do that. Then if it's not, then you can keep trying, get some grades, get some credits, and transfer to another program, another school afterwards. This is a group in here that would love to get a little bit more engaged. This group here just needs to shift a little bit up, and there's a lot of students in here. There's a lot of students in here that I would love to shift up in here. And this is about engaging with the program, focusing on learning how to learn, focusing on the learning, really. And that's going to be part of the principles that I really want us to have a look at. I'm just going to quickly open up this, and you'll be able to see what your classmates said in the seminar that you missed. So I'm just going to pull in, and this is some of the responses that your classmates had said. Don't stop, keep going to office hours, study, not procrastinating, taking care of your mental health, reading, required readings, asking for help, willpower. So these are some of the key ideas that your peers were wanting to do, wanting to incorporate this time around. I have a few that I want to add in here some of them are on here. Some of my ideas are on here, so they're there. I just want to explain a few of them for us so that we can get on the same page. This is what we believe. This is what we believe in First Year, and this is what we hope for you to believe too. 3 things. Small, smart choices consistently over time. This is something that has to be experienced. It's too simple to procrastinate and put things off. So we're encouraging this idea of consistent daily practice, and we'll be looking at that. We're going to describe the difference between fault and responsibility. This here is words matter, and we want to get clear on what we mean by these terms, specifically responsibility. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. If you're going to embrace the stress that comes with the university year and everything that comes in it, one method is to acknowledge that it exists. Don't try to hide from it. Know that it's going to be stressful. Get comfortable with the stress. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. We'll see that our comfort zones, for anything to grow, there must be some discomfort that's involved. And that's what we want to encourage, is getting used to those discomforts when it comes to learning. Boredom, frustration, confusion, those are all signs you're on the right track. Those are all signs that you're on the right track. They're not signs that you shouldn't be doing this and that you need to doubt yourself, but that's our natural response. Those are signs that you're on the right track. So let's get into these. Whenever I talk about success, I always like to start with Japanese architecture, because that makes the most sense. There was one Japanese architect that stood out the most from all the rest. He became world famous, and his name was Koda. And Koda was just known for having astounding buildings. They were just immaculate and just had a wow factor that most people couldn't really explain. When people did try to explain why he was so amazing, why his buildings were so amazing, was attention to detail would come up, following a process, learning from everybody. He said not only would he be the manager of the project, but he'd be able to learn from everybody that would be involved. So he was considered that lifelong learner. He decided that he wanted to retire. So the story goes that he goes into his boss and he says, look, I want to retire. I don't want to be doing that. I've been doing this for 30 years. I want to go and spend time with my wife and my grandchildren. I want to move on. So then the boss says, look, we're super grateful for everything that you've done for us. We're so appreciative, but we have this super important client and it has to be done by you. Is there any way we can get you to stay? And he's a bit mad. He goes home, talks to his wife. He's like, he feels a little bit obligated to do it. He doesn't know who the client is, but he wants to do the work one last time. So he gets started. It's a 4-month project. It's just a home. He goes into it. He's going through the motions. You can see, everyone can tell that his heart's not in it. You can tell he's just going through the motions. And after four months, the project is completed. It's up to code. It's a nice house, but everyone can tell it doesn't have that coda wow factor that all of his other buildings do. So he goes back to his boss and he's like, "Look, I'm done. There you go. Please give me a blessing so that I can retire." And he says, "Yes, absolutely, for sure, no problem. We have just one more thing." And he reaches into his desk and he pulls out a box. And in this box, it's wrapped with a little ribbon. He gives it to Coda. Coda unwraps it, opens up the box, and inside the box is a set of shiny new keys. Coda's mouth drops. His heart sinks. All of a sudden, he realizes that he was building his own home. This idea and this pain of regret, this is something that I want you to remember Coda's story. I want you to remember this, because school is not about the grades. I'm not sure when we learn this lesson, but the faster we learn this lesson, it's not about the grades. It's about who you become in the process. You know that this is an opportunity to learn and grow. Yes, you're tested along the way. That's part of the assessment method here, unfortunately. But every single test is a chance and an opportunity for you to learn and grow. You don't need to compare yourself to others. We don't have to worry about the grades. We can worry about the house you are building, day in and day out. What kind of house will you end up building? This isn't a journey on who you are right now. This is the story that you're writing is a story of who you are becoming. This is a story of becoming, not now. You have to work now, and you have to do the things. The person that you want to be is who you're acting as now. You're becoming that person by doing those things that you value most. I had a student, a former Fresh Start student, tell me a story of receiving an internship at an oil company and going up to Fort McMurray and working in the company. And she had been highly rigid in her thinking about how career works and the degree that she had to have. She took a leadership class and she found that her boss was an electrician, a tradie, and super surprised by that, as she would in the past would have thought, well, you could only ever be an electrician. How are you a manager of a department in a major oil company? So right away she was sort of shocked that there were alternative paths. She met another engineer that had a nursing background. She worked with an engineer closely. She was doing data analysis, and she described it as asking them about some of the things that they learned after they got their first job. She said one of the things that stood out to her was an engineer saying how much time I spent thinking about my GPA and worrying about my GPA. No one's ever asked me about my GPA. In my career and my life afterwards, it's never mattered. It's never mattered. There are some situations where I could imagine that there hits me that if we can let go and surrender the outcome, if we can let go and of that focus on GPA and come back to what kind of house are you building? Why are you here? Are you here to get B's and A's, or are you here to learn? Trying to focus and coming back to this, I'm here to learn so that I can build a massive, beautiful, wonderful house that can do anything in the future. You're building skills, you're learning knowledge to use in the future for some purpose. You don't know what that is and what it'll end up being, but you're building something right now. And if you can let go of that GPA, it's, again, some programs, if you're trying to get into a master's program, you have to set a high standard. You do. You have to achieve grades. It is competitive to get into graduate programming. But that's not until the last 60 credits of your degree. And a lot of people take extra credits so that they can boost their overall GPA to be a better applicant. So there's lots of alternatives to doing that. Letting go of that idea. And what we find, and you may have already experienced this, what we find is when we let go of that, we're completely liberated. We're completely free to do the work. As soon as I'm like, I don't really care about the results. I want to learn this material. No matter what it is, even if it's a prerequisite or something that you're forced to take. You can get curious and you can learn it anyway. This kind of idea is what we're hoping for you. And this is the idea of what kind of home are you building? What kind of house are you building? Are you building one? We'll get back to that. One example that we like to give of just that small, smart choices day in and day out, one of the best learning strategies that we can use as a student is a self-testing strategy. We use tests as an evaluation tool at school, but it can also be a learning tool, and it's an incredibly effective learning tool. It's been shown in research study after research study that if you use self-test as a learning technique, your recall and ability to use that knowledge later on is much stronger and under stress and under time pressure. So a common situation is for students to reread and rewrite their notes every time they go to class. So they go to class, they reread and rewrite their notes. And then after 10 classes, they have some notes, and then they reread and rewrite those notes. And then just before midterms, they may reread and rewrite those notes, and maybe they make some flashcards. So there's not much testing going on in here. Maybe there's a little bit as you're talking to yourself, as you go through it, you try to test yourself, but it's not as systematic. If we could take the rereading and rewriting notes session up here, and just at the end, at the last 10-15 minutes of an hour-long study session, just for 10 minutes, you make 10 questions to study, self-test that one class, one lecture. Then after 10 classes, you have 100 questions. You have 100 questions that when you come to a midterm preparation over a week, you could ask those questions to yourself 4 or 5 times. And that's what becomes here. There's zero stress. You're not being evaluated. Here, if you make a mistake, all you get to do is learn from that mistake. And if you do that 10, 20 times for each of the questions throughout this time period, all you're doing is reinforcing what is the correct answer, what this information means, how are you going to use it. And if you start asking good questions, this becomes incredibly comprehensive. But even at a minimum of 10, some classes you might have to do more, like an hour and 20 class, or I know I did this with a student the other day, physiology, they have 90 slides per class. You may be writing a lot of questions to get through all of that content, to cover all the content. And it's just asking basic what you might think would be a test question. Then you drill it over and over. So instead of rereading and rewriting notes, you're rehearsing, you're using that rehearsal strategy, but it's a little bit less active. You're not having to really think about it. You're just having to do one process. Here you're having to ask the question, and then you're having to actually recall it. So it's actually quite difficult. So it starts off quite hard and it's effortful, but it pays off under pressure, and the more we do it, the easier it becomes. So it becomes a very effective strategy. Small, smart choices over time. This here is a great example of what we could all be doing, and it only takes 10 minutes per class. If you get hit by a car, it's not your fault. And most likely it's not your responsibility to sort that out either. You may have to contact your insurance, but the other person that hit you, they're going to have their insurance and they're responsible for sorting that all out. Yes, you are responsible for some portions of it though, right? Someone hit you, but you still have to get your car to a place. Maybe you have to get a quote for how much it's going to cost to fix. You still have to be out and experience the frustration of having your car away fixed. You still have to deal if there's any personal injuries. So even though something's not your fault, you still have responsibility. If a baby shows up on your door, someone knocks and you open up the door, was it your fault that there was a baby left there? No. Are you responsible for that baby now and all the choices that come with it? Yeah. All the problems that come with it? Yeah, you are. Judges. Judges did not commit the crime, they do not process the crime, they did not witness the crime, but they are responsible for the consequences. Taking responsibility does not mean accepting fault. It means you are taking control of your life. Instead of letting the event impact you and just react to it, your initial reaction, which is a natural one, of impulsivity or frustration or overwhelm, anger, embarrassment. Those are common reactions. Instead of doing that, we take responsibility and saying, yeah, I am feeling that, but I'm going to take control of my life and dictate how I deal with this. So yes, this is an incredibly stressful experience being in the Fresh Start program. It is. There's a lot of pressure and there's a lot on the line. I really want a degree, and if I don't meet this minimum standard, I'm going to do poorly. How are you going to respond to that? That's what we're asking. Take responsibility for that response. You get to measure it. And the wonderful book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, is at the heart of it is this idea that you get to pick what you value and find important in your life. If you want to focus on the grades and the GPA, okay, that's important to you. You focus on that and have that experience. If you want to focus on the learning, you get to choose that too. You get to decide what is important to you. You get to say, you know what, I really value focusing on the learning versus GPA. I really value learning about a person and going on many dates and going deeper with that person and building that connection and building that relationship versus I prefer dating 100 different people. These are values that you get to decide at different times, and it's different times of your life. You're going to have different values. They're going to consistently change, but taking the time to say, hey, this is why I'm here. This is the house I want to build. This is important to me, and this is how I want to behave. Instead of setting, I want to get A's or I want to get B's, that's a goal and we could try to go for it, but it doesn't tell us how to act on the way through. If I have the goal that I say, the value of work ethic, I attend every single class, and I make sure that I review every single day, consistently, every single day. Every single class gets reviewed. Whatever class happened that day, I review it. That's my foundation. You get to choose that. Then you get to measure it based on that. You get to describe, I value work ethic. I value consistency. I value excellence. I value these kinds of ideas. You get to pick it. Does fault and responsibility change with tragedy or genetics? Tragedy, an earthquake. Or even we just say a hurricane. You see in the Bahamas, are they responsible for the hurricane? No. Is it their fault? No. Are they responsible for the aftermath and the rest of their lives? Yeah, they are. Genetics. If you're born with, there's a wonderful documentary going through the therapy that was involved for a group of young adults that had obsessive compulsive disorder. And these students experienced life in very different ways, and they all had different compulsive behaviors. But the first part was to accept the outcome of these things. For example, there was a young lady that she had to touch all surfaces that she went by, or if she didn't, she would have visions of her family dying in a fire. And so the first step was to acknowledge that it's going to be stressful, that, okay, that actually could happen. Your parents could die in a fire. Accept that there is a possibility. It is small, but you have to be able to be comfortable with that's actually a possibility before you can engage. So instead of avoiding these things, being able to embrace them. There was one person that was a germaphobe, and he couldn't even leave his home without being covered up or having gloves on, all that sort of stuff. And he had to accept the idea that there's a chance that I get infected and that I get sick. That could happen. Being comfortable with that. In the end, all of them described saying, it was not my fault that I have this disorder. It is not my fault that I received it, but it's my responsibility to decide how I want to live with it. And that's what each of us is having to decide when we're trying to build our own home. We're trying to figure out and understand, how can I live a valued and important, meaningful life that I decide, this is what I said this is the life I want to lead, but also deal with all the crap that comes along with it. How can I have the stress and the pressure that comes with school, but still take action? Still go to class every day? How can I deal with a bad result and still go to class every day? To not give up. To be able to do the work, even with the anxiety and the fear that comes with this environment. How do you do it? How do you take responsibility? It's by choosing the life that you want to live. And for that, it's different for everyone. The how, there isn't one. It's different for everybody. How do we get comfortable with this discomfort? We've kind of touched on it already. Taking responsibility is a good way to do it. One thing that we can keep in mind is that this is going to be hard, and it's not an option. You don't get to choose whether this is hard or not. Maybe you could differentiate the meaning so you could reinterpret it so it's not as hard as it was before. But you get to decide which is hard. Do you want it to be hard when you're studying or during the test? Do you want it to be hard, a little bit hard now every day for the next 4 months, or do you want it to be hard when you see your grades at Christmas time? The pain of regret is always going to be much, much, much more painful than dealing with a little bit of frustration day by day. What we find is that we do not rise to the occasion. Under pressure, if we're not prepared, we don't rise to the challenge. Under pressure, if we're unprepared, we fall to our preparedness. We fall to the level of training that we have. So make sure we put in the work. And during this, it's comfortable with discomfort because you're trying to change. You're trying to build a house. You're becoming someone that you want to become. And that requires stepping outside of your comfort zone and being uncomfortable. By definition, if you're trying to grow, it's going to be uncomfortable. And with growth is always fear. You're going to be uncertain about it. Am I making the right choices? Is this the right direction for me? You're not going to be good at it in the beginning. You're going to feel like a failure. Plus, you've already been living a certain life, so when you're not doing that thing anymore, you've been measuring your whole life about doing particular behaviors beforehand, and now you've stopped doing them, so now you feel like I'm actually missing out on something, or I'm not actually meeting that standard because I'm not doing that thing anymore, when you're trying to take a new direction. So you feel like a failure. And you're going to be rejected. You're going to be making some changes, and that's not going to be aligned with people that you surround yourself with. That's going to happen. This has to be something that we're going to be prepared to experience and deal with when it comes up. It's going to be uncomfortable. It doesn't mean that we're fully disassociate from those people at all. No, we can work with those relationships as this happens. But you're going to feel like this, and this is hard. This is hard stuff. This is the hard emotions that we go through in life. Okay. I tried to put on here 4 parts. If we could start with the foundation. This is what I'd like for all students. If we're trying to have this, if we're trying to build a house, we have to be consistent. We have to be consistent. Small, smart choices. Being able to deal with the uncomfortable nature of this. Build your monthly schedule. That's a part of the time management module. Build your weekly schedule from that. Also a part of the time management schedule module. Do the work, take care of yourself, start learning the strategies, apply the self-testing strategies to all of your reviews. You'll be able to go to the How You Learn module and you can look at the rehearsal, elaboration, and organizational strategies. Use all of them. If you want to know more about organizational strategies, go into the reading module and look at the graphic organizers, and that will show you how to visually represent and the benefits for using visual representations for your note-taking. Finally, every Sunday, I think doing this at lunchtime every single day is where we could head towards, but every Sunday, take an hour and just look back. Okay, what am I going to keep doing? You know what, I'm going to keep doing this for this class, and I'm going to stop doing this for this class. I'm going to start doing more of this because this is coming out. Just reflect. Ask yourself. Keeping yourself on track and monitor the process of the house that you're building on a weekly basis. Saying, did I live with a high work ethic today? No? Okay, this week wasn't so high because I only got through this, this, and this. Okay, great. What can I do? Okay, well, I'm going to keep doing this, and I'm going to start doing a little bit more of this. This is what I'm going to do it. And that's when you check your monthly schedule, you make your new weekly schedule based on your reflection, and then you do the work. And then every Sunday, you sit back down the next Sunday, and you decide, hey, I was living with these values. This is the stuff that was important to me this week, and I did it all. Fantastic. Next. Self-care was mentioned on there. We cannot deal with the stress and the pressure that comes on an empty tank. If you've got poor sleep, if you're not eating right, if you're not getting exercise, it's going to be really hard to learn a lot of complicated information quickly. You got those 98 days to finish a term and learn all the content of all your classes. You have to be taking care of yourself. Sleep, food, exercise, self-talk, essential. One of the biggest detriments to performance is going to be discouragement. You will, as we just saw with that discomfort, you're going to feel discouraged. And it's essential to encourage yourself. One of my jobs is to inspire and to encourage students to keep them going throughout this. We do that one-on-one, we do that in the seminars, we do that through our communications and our announcements and emails, helping you keep perspective so that you don't get too discouraged by the stress and the pressure that comes with being in the Fresh Start program. We're here for you to help manage this. Excellence is never an accident. It is always the result of high intention, sincere effort, and intelligent execution. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. Aristotle said this 2,500 years ago. We're not saying anything new. Sometimes we just have to be reminded of it. Make small choices, take responsibility for all of those choices, do the work, take care of yourself, and reflect regularly. And remember, what kind of house are you building? Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Make sure you answer the questions below this. And make sure you get to the next seminar. Bye for now. I'm Tristan Donald.